Welcome to the Choosing Cheer podcast, the show about the joy of Jesus in all of life's moments. I'm your host, Nicolet Bell, and my hope is that you'll see his joy is not dependent on circumstances, but rooted in his presence. Let's go there together. This episode is brought to you in part by Life Along the Way. If you've been listening a while, you've heard me talk about journeying through the Gospels through Life Along the Way series. Today, I want to tell you about a companion resource for your family. The family road trip guides are a great way your family can journey through the Gospels together. I love the activity sections to do with my daughter, Josie Lou. Any way that I can connect her to Jesus in our home is a win for me. You can pair these with our free reading guides for the whole family to read the Gospels together. You can find more information at lifealongtheway.church. This episode is also brought to you by Merle Norman of Madison and Hattiesburg, Mississippi. The Merle Norman brand is known for their timeless cosmetic products, but did you know that each studio is independently owned? The studios in Madison and Hattiesburg, Mississippi have so much more to offer than just cosmetics. You can find new boutique clothes, jewelry, and new lipstick all in one stop. With personalized and local customer service, you can get a truly special shopping experience. For more information, you can find them on Instagram or Facebook. Hey friends, welcome back to the Choosing Cheer podcast. I'm very excited that you have joined us today as we continue to talk about choosing cheer in community on this season. And as the holidays are quickly approaching, there is a lot to think about and a lot that is cramming for our attention and our focus. And so I am very excited today to have my friend Amanda on the podcast with us to talk a little bit more about the upcoming holidays and how we can choose community in the midst of it. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Nicolet. It's so good to talk about this crazy time of year that's coming upon us and all of the good and the bad and the hard that can go into that.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's begin today by you just telling our listeners a little bit about you.
I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Chicago area, now live in Indiana. I'm married. My husband and I have 3 kids, very involved in church community. But the professional side, I've worked, and which is usually the more interesting side, is that I've worked in book publishing for 15 years. And I've worked as a book agent. That's someone who works with authors and I help them get their ideas together. And then I pitch it to publishers and get them a book deal and help them through that process. So that's been my career for 15 years now. I also do some editing and ghostwriting and things on the side. But it has been just a joy to work with books and to see that, just that process. And it's, which is, I think, why this is so special to me. Like we're here, we're going to be talking about the holidays and talking about my book, which just released. And this is my first ever book. So to go through the process of seeing it happen for others and just the reality of the business and the reality of what goes into it and how it all comes together. It has been such a joy to do this myself. It's just been this wonderful little adventure that I wasn't sure if it would ever happen. I think, many of us, yourself included, like we had these book ideas, but it's like, is this ever going to come to anything? Mm-hmm. And so to go through that it's just been delightful. So I'm just so grateful and excited to talk about it. And I just feel so thankful for this journey.
That is so cool. I don't think that I realized that, Amanda. So Amanda and I have a mutual mentor who I have gotten the privilege to know and work with through JourneyWise, Chip McGregor. And he is your mentor as well, Amanda. And y'all have worked together for those 15 years. And so Chip introduced us, but I think we know more about each other from other people's conversations about each other than actual, our own conversation. So I'm so glad to know that about you. Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Thank you so much. It feels like, it just feels so special, and yes, Chip you're absolutely right. He's such a cheerleader And so he has said just amazing things about you, Nicolet. He thinks the world of you. And so it does feel like I know you, but I don't know you. Like kind
right
of
back at you, right back at you. So that is so special. And, I'm glad you gave some context to some of the things you described in, this is what an agent does. And this is what this looks like. Because I feel like as somebody who is on the tail end of the kind of the publication process of a first book and just from my work with JourneyWise and kind of learning about the industry, because I knew nothing before. And there's so much that goes into it. And when you pick up a book off the shelf, it has had a long journey before it has gotten to that point. So I think, you said just kind of that love for books is there for you. And that's so special that now you get to have your own. So why don't you just jump in and tell us about this new book?
This book is co-authored with one of my dear friends who also happens to be my pastor's wife. And she gave a presentation one Sunday morning. This would have been 4 years ago, where it was around the holiday time. And she just did this lovely thing where we were just supposed to be fully present in the moment. And we did that by doing a couple of deep breaths and just really paying attention to our bodies and where we were, in time and space. And it just helped to root us in the moment to then receive she had prepared a reading for us. And I can't remember too much what the reading was about. I know it was about the holidays and Christ coming to earth. But I was just so impacted by that approach of engaging the senses. Let's light candles. Let's create just a multi-sensory experience to really bring us present in the moment, to try to minimize distraction. And it was just this wonderful posture to receive, truth about Christ. And it was from there that I said, hey, this could maybe be a book. So that's what started it all. It's a devotional book. So there's an entry to read for every day, and it spans Thanksgiving through Advent, through Christmas time, and then into the new year. And the goal is to help you engage your senses and to really focus on what matters in what is many times a very hectic and chaotic season of life. I mean, it's from, end of the year business reports to family gatherings to presents and all of that. It's chaos. So that's the heart behind the book.
That's really beautiful. So I love that it came out of your own personal experience and wanting to help others create that experience. So talk about how that sensory approach is apparent in your book.
We have identified, well, obviously there's all five senses are included, but we've also included a sixth sense, which is proprioception. And this is a sense that is not often talked about, but we all have it. And that is the sense of awareness that we have right now. In this moment, you are aware of your body. Where your hands are, where your feet are, where you are in time and space. And that is a sixth sense that we have. It allows us to be able to move and do things without falling and stumbling, and just kind of making a mess. So that sense, we pulled that in. So we explore the six senses, and for each day, there is a small practice that you can do where you maybe will say, hey, light a candle and just focus on seeing that flame and thinking about the Spirit of God, or take a stick of cinnamon and smell it and think about how that scent has not changed over time. That is the same scent now that it was when Jesus was alive. So these very simple practices or simple things that we can do to help really bring the focus to the moment. And then there's a short scripture, a short devotional entry that we've written with some thought questions, and always trying to bring it back to So then, like, how does this change your day? How does this change your posture? How does this affect your heart or the way you think about God or the way you interact with God's presence? And the hope is that it will help us to just fully be able to experience the presence of God, which is already all around us. But instead of like viewing it as a mystery we have to unravel or like a puzzle we have to put together, we can just do something very simple, become fully in the moment and just receive the presence of God that is there with us and allow him to do his work.
That's great. I love that. And I really love like the practical things. There's simple things that you can do to help you to acknowledge that God is with you. So on the podcast, we talk a lot about choosing cheer, obviously, and the joy of Jesus. But something that I say often is that the best prescription for cheerfulness is gratitude. So I really love that this is starting with Thanksgiving and that season of where we are really to focus on being thankful and being grateful. I find a lot of the times when we are unhappy or feel like our joy is not present, a simple practice of reminding ourselves of what we are grateful for or what we are thankful for can really change our whole perspective and our whole attitude. Can it talk a little bit about how that gratitude or thankfulness maybe plays a role in this devotional?
Absolutely. I think you hit it head on where like starting this with gratitude, I think it is a game changer. I think many times gratitude is like an end goal. You know, thankfulness is an end goal when we go through these processes of refinement. And to start there, to start with, look at the beauty that's in my life. Things may be very hard. I might have hard relationships. There might be health issues. There might be all of these stressors that we have, but there is still beauty. And to be able to see that, to be able to express gratitude, it just changes the heart posture for the season so that we aren't going into the season, you know, trying to make it be something that will make us happy. You know, I think that's what we do a lot. Like, if only the holidays will go a certain way, then I'll be content, then I'll be happy. If business goes a certain way at the end of the year, then I'll be okay. And instead to go into it, here's my posture of gratitude. I'm going to be grateful and thankful and praising God no matter what. I think that then helps us to really enter into those movements of Advent where we are anticipating Christ's coming and we look to the hope he brings, the peace he brings, the joy he brings, the love he brings from that position of gratitude. It just changes the whole flow of things in my opinion. So that is, that I love that it starts, that Thanksgiving can kind of jumpstart that for us.
Yeah, that's great. So I have a practice in my own devotional time where the first thing that I write in my prayer journal daily is Thanksgiving. And I write that and I underline it and I put a colon out beside it. And I at least list one thing that I'm thankful for that day. And I try to make it something different than I said the day before. Sometimes I'll find myself like saying the same thing over and over again. But, that's just kind of like a start. I try to start my day in that way. And when I miss that or skip that, I can really tell a difference in my day. And so I like that angle of thinking about this study of going, okay, let's start this season of Advent from a place of thankfulness, because I think also our culture is like more quickly, almost like skipping Thanksgiving entirely, right? I mean, last year I had my Christmas decorations up before Thanksgiving. And for some people, that's like a big, it's a big debate, a big no or yes or whatever. But in our hurry to get to Christmas, even if it's good and we're excited about it, but in our hurry to get to Christmas, we can sometimes forget to pause and be thankful. You kind of transitioned us a little bit there, Amanda, in talking about the different kind of themes of Advent. And I think I was talking to someone the other day, a friend of mine, who grew up in a faith tradition that really doesn't practice Advent or doesn't really use that term or think about those things during Advent. So maybe give us a little bit of an overview of what the study kind of looks at and addresses during Advent. And I know that joy is one of those major themes, and that's what we talk about here on the podcast. So when you get to joy, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that, but maybe give us an overview of what that would look like.
Well, Advent is also something that it's not new to me, but in my upbringing, it's not something that we practiced in my church community. And so it's been a delight to learn more about it and to really incorporate it into my yearly holidays. We took the approach. So Advent is, of course, anticipation. It's the arrival of something. And for us, it's the arrival of Christ. And we anticipate his arrival as a baby. So like we're looking back to like when he came as a baby, we're anticipating his return to make things right. So we're looking forward and we're eager and we're anticipatory about that. And we're also anticipating his presence in the here and now, which fits with the theme of the book. Like Christ is here and he is working and he is moving. So those are kind of three focuses or three phases or focuses, whatever you want to say that we have. But we also, hold to the specific weekly themes of Advent, which is hope. We have, because of Christ, because of what he did and what he will do and what he is doing, we have hope. Because of that, we can have peace. We can have joy. We can have love. And these things, as we just really dove into writing the book, these things are so interconnected. It is very hard to fully experience one without the others. And it's almost like when it clicks, then they all fall into place. It's just this beautiful, just interconnectedness of.
I love that. And one of my former pastors used to say, like, emphasize that the fruit of the Spirit is one fruit. It's not fruits of the Spirit, it's fruit of the Spirit, and that we bear them all at one time. And so I love that you say that, because all of these things are fruit of the Spirit. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. And how can you have, to your podcast, to the topic of joy, how can you have joy if you struggle, if you don't have hope, or if you don't have that peace that God offers, or the love? It's all interconnected. And I think maybe in a way, it makes it easier for us because, I can pursue hope a little bit, or I can seek peace a little bit, and I can do these things a little bit at a time, and then they grow and become this wonderful presence in our lives and this wonderful way that we can go about life with these things that Christ offers us, because he came, because he died, and because he will come again. So yeah, it's a really, I don't know, just beautiful and wonderful thing that he's offering us.
So thinking about that and thinking about what we've been talking about this season on the podcast of community, thinking about a devotional practice or a habit that this book would be encouraging people to do. Why is that community with God, first and foremost, so important? And how does using a resource like this help us to grow in that community?
It's hard for anything to go deep if there's not that relationship. And being with God, receiving his presence, making simple choices that kind of make us feel closer to him. Like, he's right there. We mentioned this, like, he's right there. He's always available to us. He's ready. And, he's there. But sometimes we need to take those steps to open ourselves up to really see, oh yeah, he is here. And he is a part of my life, and he is moving, he is working. So that community with him is so important, and also to do it with others. There are important practices that we can do on our own: reading scripture, prayer, solitude. These are things that are many times wonderful when you do it on your own with you and God, and just have that communion with him. But wow, how it changes when then you do those things or other things with others. It is just a different experience, and the importance of having both the personal, intimate relationship with God and having that relationship with community as you are all looking to him and seeking him and growing together. That is, I mean, it just offers a completely different look at things. I want to share real briefly, because I know your focus on joy. A few years ago, I was going through a really, really hard time in life. There was some hurtful things going on. And at that time, because I was so hurt, it was hard to see God's hand in my life. Like I just couldn't see it. I was so hurt. I was so it was heavy stuff. And I was like, God, where have you been? Was that you? I don't know if it was. And in my angst, in my pain, in my honesty with God, some friends and I decided, we were each going through different things. And we said, well, let's just spend daily time in worship. And let's just do that. The Bible says that this is a good thing to do. So let's just do it and see what happens. And we did that every day, spent time on our own, just whether it's singing a praise and worship song or putting on music or whatever it may look like. And Nicolet, at the end of by the end of a couple weeks, I had a joy that I could not describe. There was nothing about my situation that had changed. Oh. There was nothing about what was going on that was better or easier or, it was still what it was. I was still struggling, but this joy came that I did not have before. And it was just shocking. It was shocking for that to be the result of engaging in a practice together. And the other people who did it with me, they also said, like, I'm happier. I can't believe I'm happier. Things haven't changed, but I have a joy. I have this freedom. I have this happiness. So just the power of doing it in community, of just taking that step and pursuing some practices. My hope is that this book will kind of help people take that step to take those 5 minutes, center yourself, really open yourself to God's presence. Maybe this is something that you're doing intentionally for the first time. Maybe you've done it for many years, and this is kind of a different way that you want to engage with the Spirit by, through this book. Whatever it may be, we're all at different stages in the journey, but that is just my hope, that it just helps people step out and really seek the face of God.
Wow, what a testimony, because we talk so much on the podcast about John 16:33. That's where this concept of choosing cheer comes from, where Jesus tells the disciples, in this world, you will have trouble. Not you might or not you may, but you will have trouble. But be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And I love what you said, that your circumstance did not change, but your joy did. The posture of your heart, the way that you felt closer to God changed despite your circumstances remaining the same. And I also love that you said that it was in community, but you and your friends didn't get together every day and listen to that worship song at a certain time. And that resonates with me as a young mom, of going, sometimes in my day, I'm like, I don't have any space for this. And you've got 3 kids, you're able to, and working and all of the things. And so I know you can identify with that, but you guys didn't use that as an excuse. You just said, okay, let's be creative about this. Like, let's just all do this, do it on our own time, but let's just talk about it occasionally. That's just a creative way to have community. So I think that that's just a really cool example for people to think about when thinking about kind of engaging in community as busy people, or in the season of busyness coming into the holidays, what that would look like.
That's absolutely right. I think we all had young kids at that time. Mm-hmm. And just being willing to do something. I think a lot of us have probably become tired by, in order to grow closer to God, you need to take weekends away in solitude. You need to do these elaborate things. And that can feel very hard for some of us, and probably near impossible for some of us to pull off. But those small yeses, like turning on that worship music while I was doing dishes, that changed my life. Committing to read the Bible every day, even if it meant that I'm like barely holding my phone up by my face while I'm falling asleep, like that changed my life. Just these little things, it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to look the way that we would like it to look, but God sees our hearts. He sees what we're doing, our posture, and he meets us where we are, for sure.
Thank you for sharing that story with us as just a testimony of just little things we can do to get closer to God, and that we know that in that produces the fruit of his joy. It's just great. So, okay, Amanda, I have a kind of a different question, switching gears on you a little bit here. What is your favorite project that you've ever worked on? I know you've had lots of experience, worked on lots of different things. What's one of your favorites?
Mm-hmm. I would say it's always, I think, my favorite when I'm working with an author and it's just not going well and we can't land the book. And then years later, something changes. And I've had a few instances where there's one in particular. There was a novel that I took on as a book agent, written about, it was written by a Black author, and it was about children growing up south side of Chicago, just a beautiful story. And at the time when I took it on, book publishing was not ready for that kind of a story, especially Christian book publishing was not ready for it. And I championed it as much as I could, but just did not, it went nowhere. And I remember thinking, like, really? Like, this is one of the best novels I've ever read in my life. And God, you mean to tell me that this is just not going to go anywhere? Like, this is it, the end. It was really hard to wrestle with. And I ended up letting the author go and saying, look, we've tried for a few years. We haven't landed it. So I'm sorry. I don't know what else I can do for you. And years later, she came back. Somehow we reconnected. And I was like, well, let's try this again. And took it around again. And that time landed a publishing deal for it. The book is called This Ain't No Promised Land. It's a wonderful, beautifully written story, impactful story. And I just love it. I don't love the struggle. Obviously, it wasn't fun when we were getting all these rejections and like, this book was like, is this ever going to happen? But that faithfulness of God, where that wasn't the right time. But now, it was maybe 10 years later that we were able to land the book with a publisher. So that is just, those stories are my favorite, when these passion projects I have, when they finally we finally get through. It finally happens.
That's great. What a powerful story of just waiting on God and trusting his timing, and the way to do that in your work. And, we can do that in our lives as well. And that's really what the season of Advent is all about. And what your book is all about is waiting on God and waiting in anticipation, as you said, traveling with him back through his birth journey, and then also anticipating his return that we know is coming, and just the joyful anticipation that we get to have in waiting for him. Such a beautiful testimony, Amanda. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners? I definitely want you to share how we can connect with you and how people can find your book, because they need to order it to get it in time for Thanksgiving so they can get a plan for reading it in this season.
Well, you can find me. I'm online. My name is Amanda Luedeke, Luedeke. It's kind of a crazy name. So you can feel free to look me up online and connect with me that way. But one thing that I do want to highlight is the book is available all over, from many different online retailers. We're having some issues with Amazon, so I would direct you to go to ourdailybreadpublishing.org, and that's the book publisher, and you can find the book there. And on that page, there is a church resource guide that you can download. If this is something that, if you want to do it in a group, if you want to do it in community, there's a resource guide there that you can use to kind of turn it into like a 4-week study and discussion time with friends. So that's, free to anyone on the book's webpage. And I would just love, I would love for churches and for individuals to do this in community, to do this with others, because just how I've seen in my own life, how much more impactful it can be when you get serious and journey together in community, pursuing, the life of following Jesus, life of Christ.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And thank you for your time today, friends. I want you to grab this book and grab some people that you want to do it with, that you want to read it with and talk about it. And that could look like a lot of different things. Like I'm thinking you could do a FaceTime call or a voice memo back and forth with you and your friends. But go through this book this season, and I think you'll be blessed by it. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been just a true joy to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks so much, Nicolet.
Thank you so much for joining us week after week on the podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to our show and leave a review. It means so much to me and helps us to spread the message of the joy of Jesus. I am so grateful you are on this journey with me. Until next week, cheers.